Hello everyone, my name is Kenton Kavestu. I'm an ex-BCG consultant, an ex-Googler, and the founder of Rocketblocks, an online platform that helps candidates prepare for interviews. In today's Rocketblocks mini lesson, we're going to be talking about something that is really important as you're going through the interview preparation process. Regardless of whether you're looking at consulting career path with a company like McKinsey, or you want to be a product manager at a place like Google, it is highly likely that as you are getting ready for those interviews, and trying to land a job at one of those places that you're doing mock interviews with your peers. And that's a great thing to do. That makes total sense. But one question that a lot of folks have as they are starting out that process is, how do I make sure that I'm a good mock interview partner? If I sit down with a peer and they give me a mock interview and then I give them a mock interview in return, how do I do a good job of that to make sure that I can help them as much as possible? It's a good thing to do and a good thing to be thinking about. So in this video, we're going to cover 3 specific tips on how to be a great mock interview partner. So let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, tip number 1 is learn 2 to 3 cases really well. And it doesn't matter whether this is consulting cases or product management oriented cases. The bottom line is that you really want to get familiar with 2 to 3 of these cases so that you can use those when you deliver a mock interview to someone else and you're playing the role of the interviewer. Now, how do you actually learn 2 to 3 cases well? Well, it's pretty simple. I think the first thing you want to do is just read through it once, give the whole case a read through, and just sort of understand and absorb the different information. What's the overall scenario? What's sort of the story arc of a particular case if it's there? Just understand the details. Then go through it a second time and really force yourself to answer the questions and think through it, almost like you were the candidate being interviewed. So it gives you a sense of wrestling with the actual topics in there, seeing what's unclear or what's particularly tricky. Okay, so that'll help you learn the actual cases. Now, why does this help? Well, there's really 2 main reasons why this helps a lot. The first is it helps you really deliver the case confidently to your partner. And if you've ever been in a mock interview and someone's just reading off a piece of paper and they're stumbling over the words or misquoting information and then saying, oh, actually, that's not correct, hold on a sec, you realize that it ruins the experience almost immediately. And that's not what actual interviews are like on the job, at least if the interviewer is doing a good job. So what the first thing that this enables is it allows you to give the case confidently and really simulate what that experience might be like in a real interview. Now, the second thing that it helps you do is it helps you calibrate your assessment of how a candidate is doing. Once you start giving the same case and questions over and over again, what you'll start to notice is that as you see different candidates go through, you'll notice, oh, so-and-so is doing a really good job on the math component, or so-and-so structured this problem in a really nice way, better than anyone else I've seen go through this problem. And that helps you give really good, actionable, high-quality feedback to the candidates as well. So learning 2 to 3 cases is really the number one thing that you can do to get yourself off on the right foot. And it's the same thing that actual interviewers at these jobs do. They have a stable of a handful of cases and questions they like to ask, and they may rotate them in and out occasionally, but the reason they do that is for the exact same 2 reasons here. It allows them to deliver that content confidently, and it gives them a really strong way to calibrate the assessment of the different candidates they're judging. Okay, tip number 2 is create a grading rubric for yourself to use. And if you're thinking, oh, I don't even know exactly what dimensions I should be using, how can I actually create a full grading rubric? It's okay. We've got samples down below, and you're more than welcome just to take those and use them as yours. The key point is that you want to start using a grading rubric repeatedly that you get comfortable with, that you can use as you're watching your peer go through an interview. And the reason this is important is all of us have probably been in a position at some point where we've gone through a mock interview with a peer, finished after 45 minutes and said, okay, hey, how did I do? And someone says, oh, I think, yeah, you did okay. Well, that's not very useful feedback. And it's almost like a waste of 45 minutes from your perspective if you didn't get any useful feedback out of it. So what you want to do is have a grading rubric that you use every mock interview that you give. As you're going through the interview, you're going to start paying attention to the specific dimensions on that grading rubric and how the candidate, how your peer is doing. So in consulting, this might be things like structuring, charts and exhibits, quantitative skills, creativity and brainstorming. And then as you're going through the interview, you're going to be watching and making marks about how that person is doing on these different dimensions. That way, when you get to the end and it's time to deliver feedback, you can say, here's my overall impression of how you did, and specifically on these different items, here's, I think structuring went particularly well, creativity and brainstorming was not quite as good, you didn't come up with a lot of ideas, etc. You give very clear, actionable feedback. And as we talked about in the first section, the more you've given a particular case and a particular question, the better you're going to be at calibrating that specific feedback on those specific skill dimensions that we were talking about. So it's going to just help you give really good actionable feedback to your partner. Okay, tip number 3 is give honest feedback kindly. Now, there are 2 key words in that sentence. The first is honest, and the second is kindly. Both of them are important because if you just give feedback and you're really honest, but you're not very kind, then if there's some negative or constructive feedback in there, you run the risk of coming across as pretty mean-spirited. And on the flip side, if you just focus on the kindly part and you gloss over any negative or constructive feedback, you're really going to do your peer a disservice as well, because those are the areas that they need to know about so that they can improve them. So this is a very tough thing to do because it makes a lot of people uncomfortable to give negative or constructive feedback. So the number one sort of advice I have for you here is to paint the context for your partner, your peer partner, about why you're giving them this feedback. So saying, something akin to, hey, I've got some feedback for you. I'm going to try and be as honest as possible, the parts that went well and not well, so that you know where you can work on to get better and improve performance. And another thing that you can do that's also helpful is share a little bit of your own struggle going through the preparation process, showing that you're all in the same boat together and saying something like, hey, got some feedback for you. There's some parts here that I also really struggled with as I've been preparing, on component X, and this is what I've done to get better, and that's how that type of stuff can really just show that you're all sort of on the same team and is a nice thing to do as well. It is overall a really tough thing to do, to give good, honest feedback and be kind about it. But even just thinking about it and making sure that you've got the right intentions in trying to communicate that can make that feedback process a lot better, easier for you to give that feedback, and a lot easier for your peer to receive that feedback and then be able to act on it and improve his or her performance. Okay, if you put these 3 tips to use, it's gonna help you be a really good mock interview partner, and your peers will really thank you for that. But there's an added benefit for you as well. If you think about these tips, you're basically using the same type of tips that interviewers at companies like McKinsey and Google and BCG and Amazon are using themselves. And so by adopting these tips, you really put yourself into the shoes of the interviewer and you really understand a lot more what it's like to be on the other side of the table. The better you are at assessing candidates yourself, the better you're going to be at understanding what makes a candidate stand out, what makes a candidate special, and that's going to help you in your own interview preparation process. So that's really a big win for you as well. So thank you so much for watching. We have tons of great content coming out on the consulting and product management career paths on a weekly basis. So if you haven't subscribed yet already, please do below. There's a big red button right there. And have a good day, and we'll see you soon.